close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. You wake up one morning, not to the sound of blaring alarms, not the panic of rushing through your day, but with a sense of calm certainty. You feel an invisible current pulling you forward, guiding every thought, every decision, every action. Hours pass by in what feels like minutes, and yet you accomplish more than most people achieve in an entire week. Your ideas connect seamlessly, your focus is unbreakable, and opportunities seem to present themselves to you at the exact moment you're ready to seize them. This isn't luck. This isn't coincidence. This is flow. And flow, when harnessed with discipline and directed toward wealth creation, is the secret engine of the world's top 1%. Most people misunderstand wealth. They think it's purely about strategy, tactics, or finding the next big thing. They jump from business to business, investment to investment, trend to trend, hoping that one of them will hit. But the truth is, while the external strategies matter, what truly separates the wealthy from the masses is how they show up internally, their ability to enter flow and operate from it consistently. So before we even talk about money, investments, business models, or networks, we must first understand the state of being, the science of flow, and why it has become the invisible backbone of the wealthiest individuals across every industry. What exactly is flow? Psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who first popularized the concept, described flow as the state in which people are so involved in activity that nothing else seems to matter. Time collapses, distractions disappear, and you become completely absorbed in what you're doing. Athletes call it being in the zone. Artists call it creative ecstasy. Entrepreneurs and investors often call it clarity or intuition. But at its core, it's the same neurological state, a heightened alignment of mind and body that makes you operate at levels that feel superhuman. Your brain in flow rewires itself. Critical parts of the prefrontal cortex responsible for self-doubt and hesitation go quiet. Neurochemicals like dopamine, norepinephrine, and endorphins flood your system, giving you deep focus, creative breakthroughs, and a euphoric sense of confidence. You take smarter risks, connect others can't see, and move through challenges with almost effortless ease. Now pause and think about this. If flow is a state in which human beings are at their absolute best, doesn't it make sense that those who learn to live in it consistently will naturally rise to the top? This is exactly what the wealthiest 1% have done. Subtopic: Flow and the wealthy elite. Now, let's break down a simple observation. Why is it that the richest individuals, whether they're tech moguls like Elon Musk, investors like Warren Buffett, entertainers like Beyoncé, or athletes like Michael Jordan, seem consistently outperform others over long periods of time? It isn't just luck. It isn't just intelligence. It's the fact that they have structured their lives, consciously or unconsciously, to spend more time in flow than the average person. Elon Musk leverages flow by immersing himself in engineering challenges for hours on end, ignoring distractions most CEOs can't escape. Warren Buffett spends 80% of his day reading and thinking, activities that trigger deep flow and allow him to make investment decisions that compound into billions. Michael Jordan wasn't just physically gifted. He entered flow during games so consistently that opponents describe him as untouchable, as if he were playing at a different speed than everyone else. Beyoncé, during performances, channels flow into her artistry and business empire, turning raw creativity into a global brand worth hundreds of millions. The wealthy elite don't chase money directly. Instead, they chase mastery, alignment, and immersion. And money, opportunities, and influence flow as a natural byproduct of that state. Why most people never reach flow? If flow is so powerful, why doesn't everyone live in it? The truth is, most people's lives are designed against flow. Distractions are everywhere. Notifications ping. Emails flood in. Our environment is noisy, chaotic, and fractured. Most people never give themselves the gift of deep, uninterrupted immersion. And here's the most devastating part. Wealth requires compounding. Compounding doesn't just happen with money. It happens with focus. Every time you're pulled out of flow, you break the compounding cycle of creativity and productivity. Think about the average worker. They're interrupted every few minutes by emails, texts, meetings, and noise. They never get into the deep state where the best ideas live. Compare that to a billionaire CEO who structures their day ruthlessly, delegating everything that isn't aligned with their genius. so they can spend 80% of their time immersed in what only they can do. Over years, even decades, that difference becomes astronomical. It's no wonder the gap between the 1% and the 99% keeps widening. The 1% are playing a different internal game. Flow is trainable. Here's the good news. Flow isn't reserved for a chosen few. It's not genetic, not mystical, not random. Flow is a trainable state. You can set the conditions. You can design your environment. You can establish rituals that prime your brain and body for immersion. You can learn how to turn it on at will. And once you learn that, wealth becomes almost inevitable. Because the truth is, the world rewards those who can focus, create, and execute at levels others can't. Flow and wealth creation, the direct link. Let's connect the dots clearly. 1. Flow maximizes productivity. What might take you 8 hours in distraction can take 2 hours in flow. That means more time for creation, strategy, and opportunities. 2. Flow enhances creativity. The best wealth-generating ideas come not from stress or overthinking, but from deep states of flow, where your brain connects disparate concepts into breakthroughs. 3. Flow improves decision-making. In flow, your intuition sharpens. You cut through noise and recognize patterns in markets, negotiations, and opportunities that others miss. 4. Flow increases resilience. Challenges become thrilling rather than draining. In flow, setbacks don't crush you, they sharpen you. And resilience is perhaps the most underrated wealth-building asset. 5. Flow attracts people. Ever notice how some individuals seem magnetic? They exude confidence and presence. That's flow, and it draws powerful networks, investors, and collaborators, the lifeblood of wealth. When you align all of this, wealth stops feeling like an uphill battle. Instead, it feels like a river you've learned to swim with rather than against. The flow-driven wealth formula. Let me give you a simple formula to hold in your mind throughout this audiobook. Flow plus focus plus time equals wealth. Flow multiplies your effectiveness. Focus ensures your energy is directed toward wealth-creating activities. Time compounds the results until you break into the 1%. This is a formula the wealthy live by, whether they articulate it or not. Your job is to master it consciously. Before we move forward, let's get practical. Take out a journal, or if you're listening while driving or walking, reflect deeply. Answer these questions. 1. When in my life have I felt most in flow? Think about times when you lost track of time, when you felt fully alive, when your performance felt effortless. Write them down. 2. What activities consistently pull me out of flow? Identify the distractions, environments, or habits that sabotage immersion. 3. How much time do I currently spend in flow each week? Be honest. For most people, the answer is less than an hour. 4. If I could restructure my life to spend even 20% more time in flow, what impact would that have on my wealth, relationships, and happiness? This reflection is the beginning of reprogramming your life around flow. Let me share a story. A friend of mine, let's call him David, spent a decade chasing money the hard way. He tried every side hustle imaginable. Crypto, drop shipping, day trading, you name it. He was always chasing, always hustling, always tired. His results were mediocre. Then he made one shift. Instead of chasing what was trending, he asked, "Where do I naturally enter flow?" The answer surprised him. It wasn't business. It wasn't trading. It wasn't even traditional entrepreneurship. It was storytelling. Whenever he was writing, speaking, or creating content, time vanished. He was magnetic. People listened. So he restructured his life around this flow state. He started a podcast, wrote articles, shared insights. Within 18 months, he built a 6-figure brand around his flow. Today, he's making more money than he ever did hustling in misaligned ventures, and he's working fewer hours with more joy. The lesson? Wealth creation isn't about doing what's hot. It's about aligning your flow with what the market values. Wealth is not just numbers in a bank account. It is a byproduct of aligning with flow, living in it, and letting it guide your productivity, creativity, and resilience. The 1% are not fundamentally different from you. They simply live in flow more often, and they protect it with ferocity. As we move into the next chapters, We'll go deeper into how to reprogram your psychology, design your environment, and establish rituals to access flow at will. Remember this: wealth flows to those who flow. Close your eyes and picture a vault. Not just any vault, but one that belongs to the wealthiest people on earth. Now imagine stepping inside, expecting to see gold bars, stacks of cash, priceless art. But instead, what you find are invisible treasures, beliefs, mindsets, psychological frameworks. Because the real vault of the wealthy isn't their bank account, it's their mindset. If Chapter 1 revealed that flow is the engine of performance, then mindset is the navigation system. Flow without the right mindset is like a supercar being driven by someone who believes the road ends in 1 mile. They'll never accelerate fully. They'll never risk curves. They'll never take advantage of the machine beneath them. That's what scarcity does to people. And unfortunately, most of the world has been programmed into scarcity thinking from childhood. Think back to your earliest lessons about money. Maybe it sounded like, money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford that. Rich people are greedy. Be grateful for what you have and don't ask for more. These phrases seem innocent, but they shape a subconscious prison. They create an underlying assumption that wealth is rare, dangerous, or unattainable. And when you believe money is scarce, you make decisions rooted in fear. You hesitate to invest. You underprice your work. You cling to jobs that drain you because you're afraid of risk. You sabotage opportunities because deep down, you don't believe you deserve more. This is why some people work harder and harder, yet stay stuck in the same financial loop year after year. They're carrying scarcity programming that blinds them to opportunities and keeps them locked in survival mode. Now, let's contrast that with the psychology of the wealthy. The 1% don't see money as scarce. They see it as limitless energy, something that can be created, multiplied, and circulated infinitely. When they lose money, they don't panic because they know they can create more. When they see opportunities, they don't ask, "Can I afford this?" They ask, "How can I make this possible?" The difference is night and day. One mindset shrinks, the other expands. Think of wealth like oxygen. If you believed oxygen was scarce, you spend your life hoarding it, fighting for it, afraid to exhale. But because you know oxygen is abundant, you breathe freely without fear. Wealthy individuals treat money the same way. To them, abundance is reality. Scarcity is illusion. This isn't just motivational fluff. It's neuroscience. Your brain runs on a filtering system called the reticular activating system, RAS. It's like a search engine that filters what information reaches your conscious mind. If you believe money is scarce, your RAS will filter the world to prove you right. You'll notice bills, debt, obstacles, and evidence that you can't afford it. But if you program your brain with abundance, your RAS begins scanning for opportunities, connections, and resources. Suddenly, you notice possibilities you were blind to before. It's not that the opportunities weren't there. It's that you weren't conditioned to see them. That's why two people can walk down the same street, and one sees nothing but problems while the other sees 10 business opportunities. The difference isn't the street, it's the mindset filtering reality. I want to give you a radical truth here. Wealth is 80% psychology, 20% mechanics. That 20%, the tactics, the strategies, the how, is what most people obsess over. They chase stock tips, real estate hacks, or the latest side hustle. But the wealthy understand that without the right psychology, tactics are useless. Give a scarcity-minded person $1 million, and they'll find a way to lose it. Give an abundance-minded person a setback, and they'll find a way to turn it into 10 million. This is why lottery winners often go broke within years, while entrepreneurs who lose everything often rebuild bigger fortunes. The external money isn't what matters. It's the internal framework that governs decisions, risks, and creativity. So, how do you shift from scarcity to abundance? It starts with identity. Most people approach wealth from a place of having. They think, once I have money, I can be free. Once I have success, I'll be confident. This is backwards. The wealthy approach it from being. They decide first, I am abundant. I am a creator. I am wealthy in mindset, regardless of current circumstances. From that identity, actions flow differently. Instead of asking, can I afford this? You begin asking, how can I create this? Instead of thinking, I hope money shows up, you think, I generate wealth because that's who I am. Your external world eventually bends to match your internal identity, but the shift starts inside. Right now, let's do a powerful exercise. Step 1. Write down the money stories you absorbed growing up. Every phrase, belief, or memory about money, positive or negative. For example, we can't afford it. You have to work hard for every dollar. People like us never get rich. Step 2. Identify the pattern. Notice how those beliefs shaped your decisions. Did they make you cautious? Did they make you feel guilty about wanting more? Did they make you overwork? Step 3. Rewrite the story. Replace each scarcity belief with an abundance statement. For example, we can't afford it. I can always create the resources I need. Money requires struggle. Money flows to me through alignment and creativity. People like us never get rich. Wealth is my birthright, and I claim it now. Step 4. Repeat daily. Your subconscious learns through repetition and emotion. Say these new beliefs out loud every morning. Visualize them. Anchor them in flow states. This isn't silly or superficial. It's rewiring your neural pathways. Just as your brain was programmed into scarcity, it can be reprogrammed into abundance. Let me share a story to ground this in reality. Two friends, both in their late 20s, had $20,000 in savings. Both wanted to invest. The first friend, operating from scarcity, thought, what if I lose this money? What if I make the wrong choice? I should hold on to it, just in case. So he left the money in a low-interest savings account. 5 years later, after inflation, his $20,000 had essentially shrunk in value. The second friend, operating from abundance, thought, how can I use this money to create more? She studied, found mentors, and invested in a small real estate project. Was it risky? Yes. But because she saw money as a tool, not something to hoard, she leveraged it. 5 years later, that initial $20,000 had turned into over $120,000 in equity and cash flow. Same starting point, different mindsets, different futures. Abundance isn't just about money, it's about energy. It's a frequency you tune into. When you operate from abundance, you're not desperate, needy, or clinging. You're open, expansive, creative. People feel that. Opportunities flow to that. Investors trust that. Clients are attracted to that. Scarcity energy repels. Abundance energy attracts. This is why some people seem lucky. They radiate abundance, and the world responds in kind. Earlier, Chapter 2, we've explored the foundation of the abundance mindset, recognizing scarcity programming, understanding how the 1% think differently, learning that wealth is primarily psychology, not mechanics, beginning the identity shift from scarcity to abundance, reprogramming money stories through conscious exercises. The truth is, tapping into flow without shifting your psychology will only get you so far. To sustain wealth like the 1%, your mind must live in abundance, because flow thrives in expansion, not contraction. In the next section of this chapter, we'll go deeper into practical abundance psychology, how the wealthy set goals, take risks, and handle losses differently than the 99%. We'll also look at the paradox of giving and why generosity is actually one of the most powerful abundance practices for building wealth. How the wealthy set goals differently. Most people set goals from a place of fear. They think, how do I avoid being broke? How do I just make enough to cover my bills? Their goals are small, defensive, and rooted in scarcity. The wealthy flip the script. Their goals come from abundance. They don't ask, what's the least I can survive on? They ask, what's the greatest vision I can bring into reality? Here's the paradox. Smaller goals feel safer, but they're actually riskier. Why? Because small goals don't inspire flow. They don't ignite creativity or passion. They keep you stuck in mediocrity, grinding without expansion. Big, abundant goals force you into flow. They demand new skills, new networks, and new thinking. They stretch you into the version of yourself capable of wealth. So, the wealthy don't just set goals. They set expansive goals that pull them forward. Scarcity-minded people see risk as something to avoid. They think in terms of loss. worst-case scenarios, and playing it safe. The wealthy see risk differently. To them, risk is the price of entry to abundance. They know that nothing expands without risk. But here's the nuance. They don't take reckless risks. They take calculated risks. They study, learn, and mitigate what they can. But they act boldly, decisively. Think about Jeff Bezos. When he started Amazon, people thought he was insane to quit a cushy Wall Street job. But Bezos wasn't operating from scarcity. He calculated, if I try and fail, I can live with that. If I never try, I'll regret it forever. That's abundance thinking. The wealthy understand that failure isn't final. It's tuition. Every mistake is data, feedback, and experience that compounds into future wins. Scarcity sees failure as the end. Abundance sees it as the beginning. Here's a reality most people don't see. Wealthy individuals lose money all the time. Investments flop. Deals collapse. Markets shift. But unlike the average person, they don't spiral into panic. Why? Because they don't see loss as permanent. They see money like a river. It flows out and it flows back in. Warren Buffett once lost billions in a single market downturn, but his identity wasn't shaken. He didn't think, I'm ruined. He thought, this is part of the cycle. The river will flow again. This is why wealthy individuals can take bold moves, because loss doesn't terrify them. They've trained their psychology to trust abundance, even in the dip. One of the greatest abundance practices the wealthy embrace is giving. And here's where scarcity screams. If I give, I'll have less. But abundance whispers, the more I circulate, the more flows back. Wealthy individuals give, not just for charity's sake, but because giving anchors abundance. It tells your subconscious, I have more than enough. I trust the flow of wealth. I'm not afraid to release. This could be money. This could be time. This could be knowledge. But the act of giving expands your frequency. It puts you in alignment with circulation rather than hoarding. Think of money like water. If you dam it up, it stagnates. If you let it flow, it stays fresh and abundant. The wealthy understand this. They give, and in return, wealth multiplies around them. Let's crystallize this. Here are 5 psychological shifts that define abundance thinking. 1. Scarcity asks, can I? Abundance asks, how can I? Scarcity is binary, yes or no. Abundance is creative. It finds solutions. 2. Scarcity hoards. Abundance circulates. Scarcity clings in fear. Abundance trusts the flow. 3. Scarcity fears failure. Abundance embraces feedback. Scarcity avoids risk. Abundance grows through it. 4. Scarcity sets survival goals. Abundance sets expansive goals. Scarcity plays defense. Abundance plays offense. 5. Scarcity identifies with lack. Abundance identifies with creation. Scarcity says, I don't have. Abundance says, I create. These 5 shifts form the mental operating system of the 1%. Here's a daily practice to hardwire abundance into your psychology. 1. Morning identity ritual. Each morning declare, I am a creator of wealth. I live in abundance. Opportunities surround me. Say it with conviction, as if it's already true. 2. Abundance gratitude. Write down 3 things you already have that represent wealth, not just money, but relationships, skills, health, opportunities. Gratitude primes the brain for abundance. 3. Generosity practice. Each day, give something. A compliment, knowledge, a connection, or money. Train your subconscious that giving is safe and natural. 4. Abundant questions. Throughout the day, when faced with challenge, replace can I with how can I? Notice how your brain starts generating solutions. 5. Nightly reflection. Before bed, write down one way abundance showed up that day, an opportunity, a connection, an idea. This reinforces a pattern. Done daily. This practice rewires your brain to not just think abundance, but live it. Let me share a story of a woman named Maya. Maya was a gifted painter, but she grew up hearing, artists don't make money. She believed it. So she worked odd jobs to survive, painting only in stolen hours. Scarcity ruled her life. One day, she decided to shift. She reframed her identity. I am a wealthy artist. My creativity is valuable. She started sharing her art online, pricing it with confidence, and connecting with collectors. Within 2 years, Maya went from struggling paycheck to earning six figures solely from her art. Her talent hadn't changed. Her psychology had. The lesson? Abundance wasn't about learning a new skill. It was about unlearning scarcity. Here's the truth. Flow is a superpower, but abundance is a permission slip. Without abundant psychology, you'll sabotage flow. You'll second guess opportunities. You'll hoard instead of create. You'll shrink instead of expand. But with abundance, flow becomes limitless. You stop surviving and start thriving. You stop playing defense and start playing offense. You stop asking for scraps and start creating empires. The 1% aren't just wealthy in money. They're wealthy in psychology. They breathe abundance, live abundance, and act from abundance. And because of that, money, opportunities, and influence are drawn to them like gravity. As you integrate the exercises in this chapter, you'll feel it, the shift. You'll start noticing opportunities where before you saw walls. You'll start acting boldly where before you hesitated. You'll start creating wealth not just externally, but internally. And once abundance is your operating system, flow becomes effortless, and wealth creation becomes inevitable. Imagine a seed, even the most genetically powerful seed in the world, say, the seed of a towering oak tree, cannot thrive if planted in toxic soil. Put it in cracked concrete and it dies. But plant it in fertile soil, give it sunlight, water, and space, and it grows into something majestic. You are that seed. Flow is your genetic potential. Abundance is the energy that fuels you. But your environment, the soil you're planted in, determines whether you wither or expand. Most people underestimate this truth. They believe discipline alone can carry them. They think sheer willpower is enough. But here's the secret the 1% know. Environment beats willpower every single time. Your surroundings shape your focus, your energy, and your state of mind. If your environment is cluttered, noisy, and distracting, flow is almost impossible. If it's designed for immersion, creativity, and focus, flow becomes natural, automatic. So the wealthy, consciously or unconsciously, design environments that make flow inevitable. And this is one of the greatest advantages they hold over the 99%. Let's break down a simple observation. Think about the average person's day. They wake up to the sound of notifications buzzing on their phone. They check messages, scroll social media, and instantly flood their brain with distractions. Their workspace is cluttered with bills, papers, and noise. They're surrounded by people who pull at their time, bosses who demand constant availability, and a culture that glorifies multitasking. And then they wonder why they can't focus. It's not that they're lazy. It's not that they're undisciplined. It's that their environment is designed against flow. They are swimming upstream in toxic soil. The wealthy, however, understand that flow is fragile. They guard it fiercely, and they construct environments that protect it. There are three main layers of environment that impact flow. 1. Physical environment, the spaces you inhabit, your home, office, digital workspace. 2. Social environment, the people around you, friends, colleagues, mentors, networks. 3. Mental environment, the unseen but ever-present noise, notifications, inputs, content you consume. Each layer either pulls you into flow or pushes you out of it. Wealthy individuals engineer all three layers consciously. Let's start with the most obvious, your physical surroundings. If your physical environment is chaotic, your mind will mirror that chaos. Clutter, noise, poor lighting, and constant interruptions all chip away at flow. On the flip side, a carefully curated environment can trigger immersion almost instantly. Here are key principles the wealthy use. 1. Minimalism equals focus. Look at the workspaces of top performers. Steve Jobs' office, Jeff Bezos' desk, Warren Buffett's reading room. They're often simple, uncluttered, almost minimalist. That's not by accident. Clutter is mental noise. It's dozens of unconscious distractions. By stripping your environment down to only what matters, you free your brain to focus fully. Action. Walk into your workspace. Look around. Does everything you see serve flow, or does it distract? Remove what doesn't serve. 2. Triggers for flow. The wealthy often embed subtle triggers into their environment, cues that tell their brain it's time to focus. This could be a specific chair, a type of music, a scent, or a ritual. Over time, these cues become anchors for flow. Action. Choose one sensory trigger, smell, sound, or sight that you'll associate with flow. Maybe it's a certain candle, a playlist, or even a specific pen. Use it only when working in flow, and your brain will learn the association. 3. Control the interruptions. Flow requires deep immersion. Interruptions shatter it. The wealthy are ruthless about guarding their focus. They turn off notifications, delegate gatekeeping, and set clear boundaries. Action. Create flow hours each day, blocks of time where your phone is off, notifications silenced, and no one can interrupt. Even 2 hours of uninterrupted immersion can outproduce 10 hours of scattered work. 4. Lighting and energy. Light affects mood, and mood affects flow. Natural light boosts dopamine and alertness. Darkness or poor lighting drains energy. Wealthy individuals design spaces with abundant natural light or use high-quality artificial lighting to mimic it. Action. Audit your workspace lighting. If possible, position your desk near a window. If not, invest in lighting that mimics daylight. 5. Ergonomics and comfort. Discomfort breaks focus. If your chair, desk, or posture distracts you, flow collapses. Wealthy individuals invest in comfort, not luxury for its own sake, but because a body at ease frees the mind for immersion. Action. Invest in one upgrade to your workspace that eliminates physical distraction, whether the chair, a standing desk, or even noise-canceling headphones. Your environment isn't just physical, it's social. The people around you shape your psychology more than you realize. If you're surrounded by scarcity thinkers, constant complainers, or people who interrupt your focus, flow is nearly impossible. The wealthy are hyper-selective about who they allow into their orbit. They spend time with people who expand their vision, challenge them to grow, and respect their focus. This doesn't mean cutting everyone out of your life, but it does mean curating who has access to your energy. Ask yourself, do the people around me fuel flow or drain it? Do they expand my sense of possibility or shrink it? Do they respect my boundaries or constantly interrupt? Wealthy individuals create what I call flow tribes. These are networks of people who live in abundance, operate at a high level, and respect each other's immersion. Being part of such a tribe pulls you upward automatically. The third layer is perhaps the most overlooked, your mental environment. This isn't your physical surroundings or the people you interact with, but the inputs you consume daily. If your mind is filled with negativity, doom scrolling, bad news, low-quality entertainment, it's no surprise that focus and flow are scarce. The wealthy curate their mental environment as carefully as their physical one. They consume high-level content, ideas that expand their vision, books that sharpen their thinking. They limit toxic media and surround themselves mentally with abundance, not scarcity. Action. Audit your inputs. For the next 7 days, cut out 50% of your low-value consumption. News, gossip, mindless scrolling. Replace it with one high-level book, podcast, or lecture. Notice how your mental clarity shifts. Let me illustrate with a story. There was a programmer named Alex who dreamed of building a startup but could never focus. He worked from a cluttered apartment, surrounded by roommates who partied late into the night. His desk was a mess. His phone buzzed constantly, and he consumed hours of random content daily. No matter how motivated he felt, he couldn't get traction. Finally, he made a radical change. He rented a small, quiet studio with clean space. He invested in a comfortable chair and noise-canceling headphones. He blocked social media on his devices during work hours. He set flow hours from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every morning. Within months, his productivity exploded. He built and launched his app, which gained traction and eventually attracted investors. What changed? Not his talent, not his motivation, his environment. By redesigning the soil, the seed of his potential finally grew. Earlier in Chapter 3, we've uncovered the foundation of flow-friendly environments. Physical design, minimalism, triggers, lighting, ergonomics, social curation, flow tribes, and selective access. Mental inputs, curating content that feeds abundance. Your environment is not neutral. It is either pushing you into flow or pulling you out. And the wealthy understand this so deeply that they treat environment design as a form of wealth strategy. In the next section of this chapter, we'll explore how to create rituals and rhythms within your environment that act as gateways into flow, turning your home, office, or even digital space into a launch pad for wealth building immersion. Now that we've examined the layers of environment, physical, social, and mental, it's time to zoom on a hidden layer that binds them all together: rituals. Rituals are the repeatable actions that tell your brain it's time to enter flow. They're like passwords into your subconscious, keys that unlock immersion on demand. Think about elite athletes before a game. Michael Phelps, the Olympic swimmer, followed the same pre-race ritual down to the smallest detail, listening to the same music, stretching the same way, even visualizing the race stroke by stroke. His ritual wasn't superstition. It was a flow trigger. The wealthy do the same. They embed rituals into their environments, so flow isn't left to chance. It's engineered. The first environment you enter each day is your morning. How you design those first minutes determines whether you spiral into distraction or launch into flow. Wealthy individuals often guard their mornings fiercely. They don't wake up and check email. They don't roll over and scroll social media. They create sacred space for focus and alignment. Common elements include movement, exercise, stretching, or breath work to wake up the body; mindfulness, meditation, journaling, or visualization to prime the mind; intention, setting the day's focus, often with clear goals. The point isn't the specific ritual, it's consistency. Your brain learns, when I do this sequence, flow follows. Design a 20 to 30-minute morning ritual that primes your body, clears your mind, and sets intention. Keep it simple and repeatable. Beyond mornings, the wealthy often create pre-flow rituals, mini sequences they do right before diving into deep work. This could be as simple as making a cup of tea in the same mug, putting on noise-canceling headphones, lighting a candle or incense, writing down a single intention on a notepad. These cues act like a switch, signaling your brain, we're entering flow now. Over time, your subconscious associates the ritual with immersion, making flow easier to access. Action. Choose one small ritual you'll perform before each flow session. Keep it consistent. Environment isn't just space, it's time. The wealthy design not only where they work, but when flow thrives on rhythm. It's easier to enter immersion at the same times each day than to scatter it randomly. Wealthy individuals often carve out flow blocks, 2 to 4 hour windows reserved exclusively for their highest value work. Steve Jobs, for instance, was known to schedule long, uninterrupted blocks for product design. Warren Buffett spends much of his day reading in silence. These blocks aren't accidents. They're rhythms that align with the brain's natural capacity for deep focus. Look at your calendar. Where can you create one protected flow block each day? No meetings, no distractions, just immersion. Even 2 hours daily compounds into massive results. In today's world, perhaps the most dangerous enemy of flow is the digital environment. Our phones, apps, and notifications are designed to hijack attention. Every ping is a withdrawal from your focus bank. Most people live in a constant state of fractured attention because their digital environment is unmanaged. The wealthy treat their digital tools as sacred. They optimize ruthlessly. Strategies include notification fasting, turning off all but essential alerts; app curation, deleting or hiding distracting apps; digital workspaces, using tools like Notion, Evernote, or project managers to centralize focus; single task mode, working in full screen, one app at a time. Remember, your phone isn't just a device, it's an environment, and unless you design it, it will design you. Do a digital declutter. For the next 7 days, turn off every non-essential notification. Notice how your focus changes. Here are some examples of how top performers design their environments for flow. Warren Buffett reads 500 pages a day in a quiet, interruption-free environment. His home office is intentionally uncluttered. Oprah Winfrey begins her mornings with meditation, gratitude, and movement, anchoring abundance and flow before entering her workday. J.K. Rowling wrote much of Harry Potter in cafes, not because of noise, but because the cafe environment became her flow trigger. Elon Musk splits a schedule into strict time blocks, creating protected focus zones despite the chaos of running multiple companies. Notice how different these look on the surface. But underneath, the principle is the same. Engineer environment. Don't leave it to chance. Let's make this practical. Step 1. Audit your current environment. Look at your physical workspace, your social circle, and your digital life. What's distracting? What's cluttered? What pulls you out of flow? Step 2. Choose one upgrade in each layer. Physical. Declutter your desk. Improve lighting. Add a flow trigger. Social. Set one boundary or spend more time with someone who fuels flow. Mental. Replace one low-quality input with a high-quality one. Step 3. Design a pre-flow ritual. Choose one simple action you'll do before every deep work session. Step 4. Schedule flow blocks. Protect at least one 2-hour block each day. Step 5. Optimize digital space. Turn off non-essential notifications for the next week. This blueprint isn't about perfection. It's about small, intentional shifts that add up to massive differences in focus and wealth creation. Consider Sarah, a rising entrepreneur. For years, she struggled with productivity. Her office was cluttered, her phone buzzed nonstop, and her friends constantly dropped by unannounced. She worked 10 to 12 hours a day, but felt she was spinning her wheels. Then she decided to treat her environment as a wealth strategy. She rented a small, quiet office outside her home. She decluttered everything. She set a pre-flow ritual of making tea, lighting a candle, and writing down her focus for the session. She blocked off 8 to 11 a.m. daily as sacred flow time. She turned off every notification on her phone, except calls from family. The results were immediate. Within weeks, she was producing more in 3 hours than she had in 12. Within a year, her business revenue tripled. Her stress dropped. Her creativity soared. Sarah didn't suddenly become more disciplined. She became more designed. She built a flow fortress around her life. Here's the truth. You can't out-discipline a bad environment. The wealthy don't rely on raw willpower. They design their world so flow becomes inevitable. They curate their physical spaces, their social circles, their digital inputs. They embed rituals and rhythms that prime immersion. They create fortresses around their focus. And because of this, they spend exponentially more time in flow than the average person. Over months and years, that compounds into wealth, influence, and freedom. So if you want to live like the 1%, start here. Not with strategies, not with hacks, not with chasing trends. Start by redesigning your soil. Because when the soil is right, the seed of your potential grows without struggle. In the next chapter, we'll move deeper into the rituals of the 1%. Not just environment-based rituals, but the daily disciplines and practices that wealthy individuals use to trigger flow on command. Why rituals matter more than willpower. If environment is the soil of flow, then rituals are the watering system. They keep the conditions fertile day after day, so growth becomes inevitable. The 1% don't rely on motivation. Motivation is unreliable. It rises and falls with moods, weather, or the latest distraction. Instead, they rely on rituals, consistent practices that pull them into flow, wealth building, and high performance whether they feel like it or not. Rituals automate greatness. They reduce decision fatigue, conserve willpower, and allow immersion to bloom on demand. Think of them like coded instructions written into your nervous system. Over time, a ritual becomes so embedded that it shifts your state automatically. Just like brushing your teeth signals your body it's time for bed, the right rituals signal your brain. We're in flow now, building wealth now. Across nearly every study of billionaires, high performers, and visionaries, one common thread emerges. They guard their mornings with ritualistic devotion. Why? Because the morning is a reset point. The mind is most impressionable upon waking. The rituals you perform in the first hour set the tone for the next 12. Let's look at some examples. Oprah Winfrey begins with meditation, gratitude journaling, and exercise. Her mornings are about centering before leading. Tim Cook, Apple CEO, wakes up at 3:45 a.m. to read emails and exercise, anchoring productivity into his early hours. Richard Branson starts his day with exercise, often outdoors, to activate energy and creativity. While the specifics differ, the principles are the same: movement, mindfulness, and mastery. Movement primes the body with energy. Mindfulness primes the mind with clarity. Mastery primes the spirit with focus, often by engaging in learning, visualization, or intention setting. Design your own 30 to 60-minute morning ritual that blends these three elements. Here's where the wealthy differ most dramatically from the average. For most people, wealth building is occasional. A side thought, a once-in-a-while budget check, or a half-hearted investment. For the wealthy, wealth building is ritualized. They review finances daily or weekly. They set aside consistent time for studying markets, opportunities, or trends. They track cash flow as carefully as they track fitness or diet. This ritualization transforms money from a source of stress into a source of flow. Instead of avoiding numbers, they flow into them. Over time, this creates intimacy with wealth, an almost personal relationship with money. Imagine treating your finances the way an artist treats their canvas. That's the shift rituals create. Choose one wealth ritual, daily or weekly financial review, reading 10 minutes on economics, or journal about money beliefs, and embed it into your schedule. One of the most powerful tools the 1% wield is the pre-work ritual. These are the small but consistent actions performed before entering a focus block. They act as anchors, pulling the mind into immersion. Examples include closing the office door and putting the phone in another room, writing a clear intention for the session on paper, performing 2 to 3 minutes of breath work, listening to a specific song or soundscape, even something as simple as adjusting posture or repeating a mantra. The power lies in consistency. Your brain begins to associate the ritual with deep focus, making flow not an accident but a trained response. High performers treat pre-work rituals like athletes treat warm-ups. You don't see a sprinter step onto track without stretching. Why should wealth creation be any different? Create a 2-minute pre-flow ritual you'll do every time before deep work. Keep it simple and repeatable. Rituals aren't just about big blocks of time. The wealthy embed micro rituals throughout their day to sustain energy, focus, and presence. Some examples: energy resets, 5 minutes of walking, stretching, or deep breathing between meetings. Mind resets, jotting down 3 wins or gratitudes at midday to recenter. Connection rituals, making one meaningful call or message to a mentor, partner, or collaborator daily. These micro rituals prevent burnout, maintain rhythm, and keep the nervous system aligned with flow. Contrast this with the average person, who runs their day reactively, jumping from task to task without pause, burning out, and losing focus. The 1% ritualize their resets, which means their energy never crashes completely. They glide from state to state like a surfer catching waves. Identify 2 micro rituals you can implement, one for energy, one for mindset. At day's end, many wealthy individuals perform rituals of reflection. This might be journaling about what worked and what didn't, reviewing goals, or simply closing the day with gratitude. Why? Because reflection turns experience into learning. Without reflection, days blur into weeks and years without insight. With reflection, every day compounds in value. Consider Ray Dalio, billionaire investor and founder of Bridgewater Associates. He built his empire on radical reflection, daily practices of journaling, questioning assumptions, and analyzing decisions. Reflection rituals don't just close the day, they set up tomorrow. They reduce anxiety, bring clarity, and embed lessons into subconscious for processing during sleep. Add a 5 to 10-minute reflection ritual before bed. Ask: 1. What did I accomplish today? 2. What challenged me? 3. What will I improve tomorrow? Here's the hidden magic. Rituals don't just shape behavior, they shape identity. Every time you perform a ritual, you're reinforcing the belief, I am the kind of person who... When you exercise each morning, you become the kind of person who values energy. When you review finances weekly, you become the kind of person who masters wealth. When you perform a pre-flow ritual, you become the kind of person who enters flow on command. This identity shift is why the wealthy hold on to their rituals fiercely. They know that without rituals, the gravitational pull of mediocrity drags even the strongest willpower back to average. With rituals, identity aligns with wealth, flow, and abundance. There's a story about a tech billionaire who kept a simple candle on his desk. Before every deep work session, he lit it. That was his ritual. On the surface, it looked trivial, even silly. But to him, the candle was a switch. The moment the flame flickered, his mind dropped into immersion. His brain had been trained. Candle equals focus. What's fascinating is that he guarded this ritual as seriously as his billion-dollar meetings. He wouldn't start a session without it, because to him, the candle wasn't about wax and wick, it was about flow access. That's how rituals work. They don't have to be complex. They just have to be consistent. Rituals are the scaffolding of wealth. They make flow accessible, reliable, and repeatable. Without them, success feels random and fleeting. With them, success compounds effortlessly. The wealthy know this. That's why they ritualize mornings, money, work, resets, and reflection. They design their days as sequences of flow triggers, so their life itself becomes a rhythm of immersion and abundance. We'll go even deeper into the hidden rituals of the 1%, the ones most people overlook. These aren't just personal habits, but social, emotional, and even spiritual rituals that transform not only wealth, but influence creativity and legacy. Up to now, we focus on personal rituals, morning routines, pre-work triggers, and reflection practices. But the wealthiest 1% know that true abundance isn't built in isolation. It's shaped by the rituals that govern relationships, influence, and vision. These rituals move beyond self-mastery into the realm of social mastery and spiritual alignment. When the wealthy combine inner rituals with outer ones, they create not only financial success, but also power, networks, and longevity. Let's uncover these hidden practices. Most people treat networking as an event. They go to conferences, exchange business cards, and hope something clicks. The wealthy don't. They ritualize it. Here's how. Consistent outreach. Many top performers block 15 to 30 minutes daily to send a message, compliment, or offer value to someone in their network. This ritual keeps connections alive. Follow-up rituals. After every meeting, they send a personal note, gift, or article related to the conversation. This ritual signals care and creates memorability. Gratitude calls. Some leaders make a ritual to call one person a week just to say thank you. No ask, no agenda, just appreciation. Over time, this ritual compounds into fierce loyalty. These rituals build social capital, the hidden currency of the 1%. They understand that wealth flows through people, and consistent rituals of connection multiply opportunities. Begin your own networking ritual. Start with one message of value daily. Don't ask, give. One ritual practiced by many wealthy elites is participation in mastermind groups. From Andrew Carnegie's Mastermind in the early 1900s to today's private investor clubs and entrepreneur retreats, the wealthy ritualize gathering with like-minded visionaries. These circles aren't random. They're structured rituals. Meet weekly or monthly. Share wins, struggles, and opportunities. Offer accountability and resources. It's not just about information. It's about identity reinforcement. Surrounding yourself with wealth-minded individuals is itself a ritual that cements a belief. This is normal. This is who I am. Create or join a mastermind. Ritualize it with consistent meetings and structured formats. The wealthy face immense stress, deals worth millions, high-stakes decisions, and public scrutiny. Without rituals for emotional regulation, they'd collapse under pressure. Many turn to meditation or prayer to reset nervous systems, journaling to process emotion into clarity, breath work to reduce cortisol and activate flow states. Exercise rituals not just for health, but for stress release. What's important isn't which method they choose, but that they ritualize it. They don't wait until stress overwhelms them. They preempt it with daily practice. This emotional mastery is why they appear calm in chaos, decisive under pressure, and magnetic to followers. Their rituals create the inner stillness that amplifies outer influence. Identify one emotional reset ritual and schedule it daily. One of the least discussed rituals of the wealthy is visioning. Average people set goals sporadically. The wealthy ritualize revisiting, rewriting, and re-envisioning their goals. They don't just ask, "What do I want?" once a year. They ritualize asking, "Where am I going and why?" This might look like quarterly retreats for reflection and vision expansion, weekly journaling on values and goals, daily visualization of outcomes during morning rituals. By ritualizing vision, they keep their compass sharp. While most drift, they stay aligned. Add a weekly vision ritual. Take 30 minutes to review goals, values, and intentions. Here's the paradox. The wealthiest people often ritualize giving away wealth. From Warren Buffett's philanthropic commitments to smaller daily acts of generosity, giving becomes a ritualized practice. Why? Because it reinforces abundance. Scarcity says, "I can't give, I'll run out." Abundance says, "I give because I overflow." When giving is ritualized, whether through tithing, donations, mentoring, or service, it transforms money from mere numbers into a conduit of impact. This ritual sustains motivation, expands networks, and often returns multiplied value. Establish a giving ritual. It could be a percentage of income, a monthly donation, or weekly act of generosity. Here's a story. A Fortune 500 CEO had a simple but powerful ritual. Once a month, he invited 8 to 10 people, entrepreneurs, artists, investors, and thinkers, to a private dinner. There was only one rule: no business pitches. Instead, each guest shared a personal story of challenge and growth. This ritual created bonds deeper than contracts. Over time, those dinners seeded ventures worth billions, partnerships that lasted decades, and friendships that carried through crises. The lesson? Wealth rituals don't have to be formal or rigid. Sometimes, they're as human as breaking bread together consistently. Finally, many of the wealthiest cultivate spiritual rituals. This doesn't always mean religion. It means a consistent practice that aligns them with something larger than themselves. Some meditate, others pray, some journal conversations with their higher self, others retreat into nature. These rituals create perspective. They remind the wealthy that money is a tool, not the end. They fuel creativity, resilience, and humility. They prevent the trap of wealth without meaning. Without these spiritual rituals, wealth becomes a prison. With them, wealth becomes freedom. Choose one spiritual ritual, prayer, meditation, nature walks, or gratitude journaling, and make it consistent. Rituals are the rhythm of the wealthy. They aren't superstitions or routines done blindly. They're carefully chosen anchors that pull the mind, body, and spirit into flow. From morning practices to networking rituals, from vision alignment to spiritual grounding, the 1% design their lives as orchestrated sequences of triggers. These rituals build wealth not just financially, but relationally, emotionally, and spiritually. If you want to tap into flow and amass wealth like the 1%, study their rituals. Not just what they do, but how they repeat it, protect it, and expand it. Then create your own. Because rituals don't just shape your schedule, they shape your destiny. Motivation is unreliable. It comes in bursts, fades and dips, and cannot be depended on for sustained wealth creation. The wealthy understand this. They don't rely on fleeting emotions. They rely on habits, systems that automate success. High-performance habits are the scaffolding of the 1%. These are not generic work hard, wake up early slogans. They are deliberately engineered routines that conserve energy, sharpen decision-making, and create compounding returns. Where rituals pull us into flow, habits keep us there. They make the extraordinary ordinary. In this chapter, we'll explore the habits that distinguish the wealthy, how they think, act, and operate differently from the 99%. We'll also explore how to install these habits in your own life. The first and most critical high-performance habit is energy management. Average people waste energy daily. Overeating, undersleeping, doom scrolling, engaging in pointless arguments. The wealthy see energy as their primary currency. Here's what energy mastery looks like. Sleep discipline. Many top performers guard sleep like a sacred contract. They design their bedrooms for darkness, quiet, and rest. They view a good night's sleep as non-negotiable ROI. Movement rituals. From morning workouts to afternoon walks, they habitually move. Exercise is not just fitness. It's a performance enhancer for creativity and resilience. Nutritional precision. While many indulge unconsciously, the wealthy often ritualize balanced eating. Foods that sharpen cognition, sustain energy, and prevent crashes. Why? Because they know energy precedes money. A fatigued mind cannot generate bold ideas. A depleted body cannot negotiate powerfully. The habit of energy mastery creates the bandwidth to seize opportunities when others are too tired to notice them. Audit your energy habits. Are you leaking energy through poor sleep, food, or distraction? Plug the leaks first. Another defining habit is prioritization. The wealthy don't just work hard, they work on the right things. While most fill their days with endless tasks, the 1% ask, what moves the needle? What creates disproportionate returns? Then they focus relentlessly on those. This looks like daily top 3. Instead of long to-do lists, they commit to 3 critical tasks daily. Elimination habit. They cut meetings, projects, or relationships that don't align with their mission. Delegation habit. They habitually delegate tasks that others can do, even if it costs money. They understand buying back time as wealth. Jeff Bezos once said, our success is a function of how many experiments we do per year, per month, per week. But behind that experimentation lies ruthless prioritization, choosing which experiments matter most. Tomorrow, instead of a 20-task to-do list, identify the top 3 wealth-driving actions and commit fully. The wealthy are obsessive learners. But unlike average learners, they ritualize applied learning. This means daily reading or listening. Many top performers read 30 to 60 minutes a day, not for entertainment, but to sharpen their edge. Learning loops. After consuming, they immediately ask, how can I apply this? And then execute. Feedback habit. They actively seek feedback from mentors, markets, and peers, and adjust rapidly. Warren Buffett spends up to 80% of his day reading. Bill Gates has think weeks. Naval Ravikant listens and synthesizes constantly. These habits aren't random. They're baked into daily life. Action. Build a learning window into your day. Even 20 minutes of deep reading or listening compounds into mastery over time. The habit of tracking metrics. The wealthy measure. The poor guess. Whether in fitness, business, or wealth, tracking is a core habit. They know that what gets measured gets managed. Examples. Tracking net worth monthly. Tracking daily habits, sleep hours, workouts, focus time. Tracking KPIs in business consistently. This isn't about obsession. It's about clarity. Without data, decisions are emotional. With tracking, they are precise. Elon Musk, for instance, is known to obsess over performance metrics in engineering and production. Athletes in the 1% track every calorie, every movement, every recovery cycle. This habit builds self-awareness and course correction. Action. Identify 3 metrics that matter most to your wealth journey. Begin tracking them today. The habit of batching and time blocking. The wealthy understand context switching is a hidden tax. Every time you jump between tasks, you burn energy. Their habit? Batching and blocking. They batch communication. Emails and calls are handled in specific windows, not scattered throughout the day. Block deep work. They set aside uninterrupted hours for creative, strategic, or wealth-driving work. Block recovery. Breaks, exercise, and reflection are also scheduled. This habit transforms chaos into rhythm. It converts a day of constant distraction into a day of high-yield focus. Cal Newport calls it deep work. Billionaires call it Tuesday. Action. Experiment with a 90-minute time block tomorrow. Shut out distractions and focus on one wealth-driving activity. Notice the difference. One hedge fund manager was known for incredible consistency. His peers described him as boringly effective. His secret? He built his life around habits, not goals. He woke at the same hour daily, followed the same energy rituals, tracked his key financial metrics every Friday, and held the same vision alignment meeting every Monday morning. When asked why, he said, habits keep me wealthy when motivation fades. On my worst days, I still outperform most people's best days because I don't rely on feeling like it. This illustrates the true power of high-performance habits. They raise your floor so high that even your bad days produce results the average person can't touch. The compounding power of habits. Wealth is rarely built in a single decision. It's the compounding effect of small, repeated habits. The habit of daily learning compounds into wisdom. The habit of energy mastery compounds into decades of vitality. The habit of prioritization compounds into millions in opportunities seized. The habit of tracking compounds into sharper, faster decisions. Each habit alone is powerful. Together, they create a self-reinforcing system where flow, performance, and wealth become inevitable. The wealthy don't become wealthy because they're extraordinary. They become wealthy because they habitually design their lives to make extraordinary results ordinary. The habit of fast, decisive action. One of the most visible differences between the wealthy and the average is decision speed. The average person hesitates, overthinks, waits for perfect certainty. The wealthy know clarity comes through action, not before it. This doesn't mean reckless choices. It means 80% rule. If they have 80% of the information, they act. The remaining 20% is learned in motion. Bias for action. They understand momentum compounds. A decision today can open doors tomorrow that analysis paralysis never will. Failure framing. They view mistakes as tuition, not tragedies. Jeff Bezos framed it best. Most decisions should probably be made with around 70% of the information you wish you had. If you wait for 90%, you're probably being slow. This habit, fast, decisive action, keeps them ahead of competitors, opportunities, and trends. Action. Next time you're hesitating, ask yourself, what's the cost of waiting? Often, waiting is the most expensive choice. The habit of strategic patience. Decisive action is paired with its twin, patience. This sounds paradoxical, but here's the nuance. They act quickly on small, reversible decisions. They are patient with big, compounding outcomes. Wealthy investors don't panic when markets dip. They wait, knowing wealth compounds over decades. Entrepreneurs don't expect overnight success. They build systems patiently, while still moving fast on daily choices. It's the habit of zooming out. They can endure short-term turbulence because their vision extends 10, 20, 50 years. Action. In your wealth journey, identify where you need impatience, daily action, and where you need patience, long-term compounding. Most people network for transactions. The wealthy habitually network for transformation. This looks like approaching conversations with curiosity, not agendas. Spending time with people who challenge their thinking, not just flatter their ego. Practicing deep listening, which pulls others into flow. Because they habitually show up with presence, others feel energized in their company. This is how wealth networks expand, not through force, but through resonance. Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger's partnership is a prime example. Decades of collaboration rooted in shared values, constant learning, and flow alignment. Action. Treat your next conversation as a flow-building opportunity. Ask deeper questions. Listen without distraction. Watch how the dynamic shifts. The habit of building systems, not goals. The average person sets goals. I want to make $100,000 this year. The wealthy build systems. I'll design a scalable business that prints cash flow every month. Systems are habits in motion. They are repeatable, automated structures that keep producing wealth regardless of mood or circumstance. Examples. An automated savings and investing system. A content system that markets a business daily. A delegation system that removes low-value work. This habit ensures wealth is not dependent on discipline alone. It becomes structural, inevitable. James Clear put it simply, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Action. Review your wealth goals. Ask, what system can I build so the goal becomes automatic? The habit of constant environment design. The wealthy know their environment shapes behavior more than willpower does. So they engineer environments that make success frictionless. Examples. Keeping their workspaces distraction-free. Surrounding themselves with people who normalize ambition. Living in cities or hubs that feed their industry growth. This habit explains why wealth often clusters in places like Silicon Valley, Wall Street, or Hollywood. Environments amplify behavior. Action. Identify one environmental tweak you can make today, removing a distraction, joining a growth community, or upgrading your workspace. The habit of reflection and recovery. Finally, the wealthy habitually pause. They take retreats, journal, meditate, and step back to review. They know relentless action without reflection leads to burnout. Their reflection habits include weekly reviews, what worked, what didn't, what to improve, gratitude practices, anchoring wealth and fulfillment, not scarcity, vision recalibration, realigning with long-term flow. Ray Dalio calls this the process of pain plus reflection equals progress. Without reflection, pain is just wasted suffering. With reflection, pain becomes data. Action. Set aside 30 minutes this week for reflection. Write down lessons learned, wins, and adjustments. A CEO running a billion-dollar company once revealed his unusual habit. He took an entire day every 2 weeks to do nothing but think. No meetings, no emails, no noise, just space. His board once asked why. He replied, "My job isn't to be busy. My job is to see further than anyone else." That day of reflection gave him clarity others lacked. His company avoided crises and seized opportunities faster because he habitually stepped back. This illustrates a final truth. Habits aren't just about doing more. They're about doing less better. High-performance habits are the architecture of wealth. They master energy. They prioritize with precision. They learn relentlessly. They track what matters. They block time for flow. They act decisively but remain patient. They network with presence. They build systems, not just goals. They design environments. They reflect and recover. Each habit may seem small, but layered together, they form the invisible scaffolding that supports wealth like the 1%. The truth is simple. The wealthy don't wait for extraordinary moments. They habitually manufacture them. And with deliberate practice, so can you. Why flow matters more in business than anywhere else. Business is chaos. Markets shift. Competitors rise and fall. Customers are fickle. Regulations change overnight. In this turbulence, the average business owner is constantly reactive, always chasing fires. But the top 1% entrepreneurs and investors operate differently. They embed flow into their businesses. Why? Because flow is the ultimate competitive advantage. It multiplies creativity, which drives innovation. It accelerates execution speed, which beats slow arrivals. It sharpens focus, which helps navigate uncertainty. It reduces stress, which sustains long-term performance. In business, whoever spends the most time in flow produces disproportionately better outcomes. They think clearer, spot opportunities faster, and build wealth longer than their distracted competitors. Business as a flow ecosystem. Most people think of a business as a machine. The wealthy think of it as an ecosystem. Like a rainforest, everything feeds everything else. Leaders set vision and rhythm. Teams execute and innovate. Customers provide feedback and loyalty. Systems recycle resources efficiently. When a business is designed as a flow ecosystem, energy moves smoothly. Ideas flow from vision to execution. Capital flows back as profit, and learning flows into adaptation. Contrast this with businesses stuck in friction mode, endless bureaucracy over analysis, toxic cultures. They bleed energy and eventually money. The 1% habitually strip friction and amplify flow inside their companies. Flow leadership. The CEO as conductor. The role of a business leader is not just decision-making, it's orchestrating flow. Think of a conductor leading a symphony. They don't play every instrument. They ensure harmony. They don't micromanage. They set tempo. They don't compete with the musicians. They create conditions for brilliance. Wealthy CEOs embody this mindset. They design structures that let teams hit flow. Clear goals, autonomy, feedback loops, and psychological safety. For example, Google famously allows employees 20% of their time for self-directed projects. This creates flow and has produced billion-dollar products like Gmail. Amazon leaders set 2 pizza teams, small, empowered units that can move fast without bureaucracy. These are flow designs inside business. Action. If you're building a business, ask, am I acting like conductor or am I trying to play every instrument? Flow through customer obsession. One overlooked truth. Customers can pull a business into flow. When a company deeply understands its customers' problems, everything aligns. Marketing feels effortless because it resonates. Product development flows because it solves real pain. Sales flow because value is obvious. Jeff Bezos built Amazon with an almost maniacal customer obsession. He once said, "We're not competitor obsessed, we're customer obsessed. We start with the customer and work backwards." This is a flow principle. Clarity of focus reduces friction and accelerates progress. Action. Identify one way to bring your customer's voice more directly into your process. Calls, surveys, feedback loops. Flow follows relevance. Flow in decision making. Business involves constant choices under uncertainty. The average entrepreneur agonizes. The wealthy build decision frameworks that keep them in flow. Here are a few flow-based decision habits. 1. Reversible versus irreversible. Most decisions are reversible. Move fast on these. Save slow deliberation for the few that are permanent. 2. Asymmetric bets. The wealthy lean into decisions with big upside and small downside. This asymmetric flow creates exponential wealth. 3. Premortem rituals. Before committing, they ask, if this fails, why would it fail? This anticipates problems and clears fear. By reducing decision friction, they protect mental flow and preserve momentum. Here's a story of the investor who flowed through chaos. In 2008, during the financial crisis, while most investors panicked, one hedge fund manager entered a state of radical clarity. Instead of doom-scrolling news or drowning in stress, he retreated into deep flow, analyzing patterns, reviewing historical data, writing down strategies. While others froze, he acted decisively. Within months, his fund doubled while competitors collapsed. When asked how he stayed calm, he said, "I've trained myself to enter flow when others enter fear. That's my advantage." This is the essence of flow in business and investing. Where others see chaos, the wealthy see clarity. Building business models that flow. Flow-friendly businesses share common DNA. They leverage systems. Revenue doesn't depend on constant manual effort. Scale smoothly. Adding customers increases profit without multiplying headaches. Adapt easily. They're designed to pivot without collapse. Examples. SaaS businesses like Zoom, Slack. Flow because once built, each new customer adds revenue with minimal extra work. Asset-light models like Airbnb, Uber initially. Flow because they leverage networks, not heavy infrastructure. Digital education businesses flow because content compounds and scales infinitely. The wealthy habitually seek models that reduce friction and amplify scalability. Examine your current business model. Does growth feel heavier or smoother as it scales? If it's heavy, flow is missing. Flow rituals for entrepreneurs. Running a business can drag you into constant firefighting. The wealthy counter this with flow rituals embedded in business life. Morning CEO block. Time for strategy, not emails. Weekly team sync. Aligned focus, not scattered updates. Quarterly vision reset. Keeps long-term flow alive. End-of-day wins journal. Reinforces progress and momentum. These rituals prevent reactive spirals and maintain proactive flow. Flow is not just a personal state. It's the lifeblood of a wealthy business. When leaders orchestrate flow, when customers pull companies into alignment, when decision-making removes friction, when models are built to scale, wealth is no longer a grind. It becomes a natural, self-reinforcing rhythm. In the next section, we'll go deeper into flow and investing, how wealthy investors harness flow to spot opportunities, ride compounding trends, and thrive where others drown. Flow is an investor's edge. Investing is often painted as a math game, charts, ratios, balance sheets. But beneath the surface, investing is psychology and perception game. The 1% know this. They cultivate flow to outperform because flow provides calm clarity under pressure when markets panic, heightened pattern recognition to spot trends early, unshakable patience to let compounding work, emotional detachment to avoid fear and greed cycles. Where the average investor sees noise, the wealthy in flow see signals. The flow mindset of the investor. Most investors chase the market, bouncing from hype to hype. The wealthy adopt flow-based mindsets. 1. Infinite games, not finite wins. They don't think in quarters. They think in decades. They know wealth compounds through infinite games, reinvesting, learning, adapting. 2. Opportunity flow, not scarcity panic. When markets crash, average investors panic sell. The wealthy lean in. Everything is on sale. Crisis becomes flow fuel. 3. Focus on what doesn't change. Jeff Bezos once said, "People always ask what will change in 10 years. A better question is what won't change." Investors in flow anchor on unchanging human needs, connection, convenience, health, status. This mindset shift, scarcity flow, fear clarity, creates generational wealth. Spotting flow trends. The wealthy are masters at detecting macro flows before others. The internet in the 90s, smartphones in the 2000s, AI and blockchain in the 2020s. Flow amplifies pattern recognition. When immersed in data, conversations, and intuition, they see currents before they become waves. Example, Mark Andreessen, co-founder of Andreessen Horowitz, backed Facebook early because he recognized the flow of human attention shifting online. Elon Musk leaned into EVs and renewables decades before mainstream adoption, sensing the inevitable flow of energy transition. They weren't just guessing, they were in flow with emerging trends. Action. Ask yourself, what currents am I noticing repeatedly? Where's attention, capital, or talent flowing? The habit of asymmetric bets. Flow doesn't mean constant gambling. It means placing asymmetric bets. Small downside, massive upside. Wealthy investors habitually allocate energy this way. A small stake in a startup with world-changing potential. Real estate in an undervalued but rising city. Equity in their own company reinvested over time. These bets flow with trends rather than fight them. Think of Amazon's early strategy, pouring profits into infrastructure and cloud computing. Risky? Yes, but the upside was global dominance. Patience. Flow's hidden wealth multiplier. The average investor sabotages compounding by acting too often. The wealthy in flow sit still. Warren Buffett. The stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. Ray Dalio. Decades refining principles rather than chasing quick wins. Flow helps patience because it immerses the mind in process, not outcome. Instead of watching charts anxiously, wealthy investors live in their rhythm. Reading, learning, waiting. Patience and flow makes time your ally, not your enemy. Flow practices for investors. How do wealthy investors deliberately tap into flow? Deep reading blocks. Hours immersed in reports, history, philosophy. This pattern immersion trains intuition. Market meditation. Pausing before acting. Breathing into clarity. Detaching from herd panic. Scenario visualization. Running mental what-if simulations in flow state. Preparing for multiple outcomes. Compounding checkpoints. Instead of daily noise, they check progress quarterly or yearly, aligning with compounding timescales. These rituals guard against emotional whiplash and keep them aligned with flow. Story. The investor who bought when others ran. In 2020, during the pandemic crash, global markets plummeted. Most investors sold in fear. One seasoned investor, however, entered flow. He reviewed data calmly, noted that consumer tech usage was skyrocketing, Zoom, Netflix, Shopify, and invested heavily in these sectors while prices were depressed. Within 18 months, his portfolio had multiplied. When asked how he avoided panic, he smiled, "I wasn't in the market's emotional storm. I was in flow with human behavior." That's the secret. Flow tunes you into deeper currents beneath short-term chaos. Business and investing are not separate from flow, they are powered by it. In business, flow is designed into teams, systems, and models. In investing, flow sharpens patience, clarity, and trend recognition. The wealthy don't grind harder than everyone else. They align with currents already moving, then ride them with precision. In turbulence, others panic. They flow, and that's why they amass wealth like the 1%. Why leverage is the secret language of the 1%. If flow is the engine, leverage is the accelerator. You can be brilliant, disciplined, and deeply in flow. But without leverage, your wealth will cap at your personal energy. There are only 24 hours in a day, and no matter how optimized you are, you can't out-hustle the ceiling of time. The 1% know this. They don't build wealth through effort alone. They build wealth through leverage. Leverage multiplies flow. It takes the same state of focused energy and scales it across time, people, and capital. This is why someone in the 1% can achieve, in a year, what might take others a lifetime. What exactly is leverage? Leverage is using a tool, system, or resource so that the output is disproportionately larger than your input. Simple metaphor. A lever lets you lift something you couldn't with your bare hands. In wealth, leverage is anything that lets your actions produce exponential results. There are 4 major forms of leverage the wealthy master. 1. People leverage. Teams, networks, and talent multiply your effort. 2. Capital leverage. Money working harder than you do. 3. Technology leverage. Code, automation, AI, and scalable tools. 4. Media leverage. Ideas spreading faster than you could ever travel. Each of these can turn flow into wealth on a massive scale. Flow plus leverage equals exponential wealth. Flow alone makes you effective. Leverage alone makes you powerful. Together, they create exponential results. Consider this. A writer in flow produces a brilliant book, Flow. With media leverage, that book sells to millions globally while they sleep, leverage. Or an entrepreneur in flow designs a groundbreaking product, Flow. With people and technology leverage, that idea becomes a billion-dollar company, leverage. The wealthy don't choose between flow or leverage. They fuse them. People leverage, multiplying minds. No wealthy individual operates alone. Even the most iconic billionaires, Elon Musk, Oprah Winfrey, Steve Jobs, surround themselves with teams that amplify their vision. Flow with people leverage looks like this. Leaders stay in creative flow. Teams handle execution flow. Culture ensures everyone's energy aligns. Jobs wasn't soldering circuit boards at Apple. He was in flow designing the vision while engineers scaled reality. Action. Audit your life. Are you hoarding tasks that someone else could do better, cheaper, or faster? Every task you cling to is a block against leverage and flow. Capital leverage. Money that flows like a river. The poor trade time for money. The wealthy make money flow into more money. Capital leverage is about putting dollars into vehicles where they compound without constant supervision. Stocks, bonds, ETFs. Real estate producing rental income. Businesses reinvesting profits. But flow is what keeps capital leverage sharp. A distracted, emotional investor hemorrhages money. A flow-driven investor calmly allocates, adapts, and lets time magnify returns. Think of Warren Buffett. He doesn't chase markets daily. He reads, thinks, and places capital where it will flow for decades. Technology leverage. The 21st century multiplier. In earlier centuries, capital was the king of leverage. In the digital age, technology is the king. One line of code, written in flow, can scale to millions of users. One automation system can replace thousands of hours of labor. One AI model can crunch data faster than armies of analysts. The wealthy embrace technology as an amplifier of flow. They don't fight it, they wield it. Case study, Shopify. Its founders didn't open one store. They built a platform where millions of others could. Their flow output software became infinite leverage. Action. Where in your life can technology replace grunt work so your energy stays in flow? Media leverage. Influence that never sleeps. Ideas are the highest form of leverage. They cost almost nothing to replicate, but their spread can reshape industries. This is why the 1% cultivate media leverage. Books, podcasts, viral videos, personal brands. Each piece of media becomes a flow artifact. Created once, echoing forever. Example, a YouTuber in flow creates a single video. With the right message, it earns millions of views, revenue, and influence, all while they sleep. Media is infinite leverage for those who know how to channel flow into storytelling. Story, the entrepreneur who mastered all 4. One young entrepreneur built a software company. Here's how flow plus leverage made him wealthy. In flow, he coded the first prototype, technology leverage. He attracted investors who injected capital leverage. He built a small but brilliant team to scale, people leverage. He told his story on social media, drawing millions of users, media leverage. In 5 years, he went from a single laptop to $1 billion exit, not because he worked 100 hours a week, but because he aligned flow with leverage. Leverage is the magnifier of flow. Without it, you're capped by your hours. With it, your hours echo endlessly. The wealthy understand that wealth creation is not about grinding harder. It's about entering flow, then pouring that energy into leverage channels. In the next part, we'll dive into how to systematically build leverage into your life and business. Specific strategies, rituals, and decision-making frameworks the 1% use to let flow compound into unstoppable wealth. Turning theory into practice. Knowing about leverage is one thing. Building your life so leverage flows automatically is another. The wealthy don't treat leverage as a side tactic. They architect their entire lives and businesses around it. Their goal: every unit of effort multiplies without them being present. You can do the same by intentionally structuring systems of leverage. Step 1. Audit your energy. First, you need brutal clarity. Where's my energy leaking into low-value tasks? Most people waste flow energy on responding to endless emails, micromanaging tasks others could handle, drowning in information instead of synthesizing it. Wealthy individuals cut ruthlessly. If an activity doesn't amplify flow or plug into leverage, it's either delegated, automated, or deleted. Action. Write down everything you did in the last week. Mark which tasks only you could do at the highest level and which should be handled by technology, people, or systems. That's your leverage gap. Step 2. Build people systems. Leverage starts with people. But the wealthy don't just hire, they design teams. Their system. Hire for strengths, not to fix weaknesses. Create roles with autonomy so others can operate in flow. Set up rhythms, meetings, updates, reviews that keep the machine moving without constant oversight. Think of Richard Branson. He didn't build Virgin by himself. He empowered dozens of CEOs across businesses, then stepped back to focus on vision. Your job isn't to be the engine, it's to design the engine. Step 3. Automate relentlessly. Anything repeatable can be automated. The wealthy don't waste time on tasks that a system can do one setup. Examples: automated investing contributions, software to handle customer onboarding, AI handling scheduling, research, or drafting. Every automation frees mental space for flow. Action. Look at your recurring tasks. Can tech or AI take 50% off your plate? The wealthy constantly ask this question. Step 4. Capital allocation. Money itself becomes a system. Wealthy people don't just earn. They channel earnings into vehicles that grow on their own. Their framework. 1. Cash flow to cover lifestyle. 2. Growth investments, stocks, startups, real estate. 3. Defensive reserves, bonds, cash. 4. Philanthropy or passion projects. Each dollar is placed where it compounds, not where it dies. Flow ensures they're not reacting to markets. They're calmly rebalancing and adjusting with clarity. Step 5. Media machines. The most overlooked leverage system. Media. The wealthy build media engines around themselves. Podcasts that run weekly without their constant presence. Content teams clipping, editing, and distributing their ideas. Books or blogs that continue building authority years later. Gary Vaynerchuk, for instance, doesn't personally edit videos. He has a content team that multiplies every piece of his thought leadership across dozens of platforms. Media turns flow moments into assets that keep compounding influence. Decision-making in flow. Leverage systems collapse if you choke them with hesitation. The wealthy develop a decision framework. High leverage, low risk, act fast. High leverage, high risk, test small. Low leverage, low risk, delegate. Low leverage, high risk, avoid entirely. Flow helps here. In flow, decisions come from clarity and intuition rather than fear or ego. This keeps leverage moving instead of stalling in analysis paralysis. Story: the architect of systems. One businesswoman built an online education empire. In the early years, she worked 14-hour days creating courses, emailing students, handling tech issues. Then she shifted, built a teaching team, people leverage, automated enrollments and payments, technology leverage, invested profits into ads and partnerships, capital leverage, launched a podcast that promoted her brand continuously, media leverage. Within 5 years, she worked less than 20 hours a week, yet her income multiplied tenfold. Her breakthrough wasn't working harder. It was building systems where leverage flowed on autopilot, flow and letting go. The hardest part of leverage is emotional, letting go. Most people cling to control because they fear mistakes. The wealthy understand mistakes are the tuition of leverage. Delegating will create errors. Automations will break. Media will get misquoted. But flow helps them zoom out. Instead of obsessing over one mistake, they stay immersed in the bigger vision. And with every cycle, the system gets tighter. Leverage is not an abstract theory. It is a design principle. The wealthy align flow with people systems that multiply vision, tech automations that free energy, capital allocations that compound, media machines that spread influence. When you stop treating yourself as a bottleneck and start designing systems, wealth stops trickling and starts surging. The 1% don't work more hours than you. They design so every hour echoes through leverage. And in flow, those echoes never stop. The wealthy don't manage time. They orchestrate energy. Most people live as if time is their scarcest resource. They obsess over calendars, schedules, and to-do lists. But here's the truth the wealthy know. Time doesn't matter without energy. You can have 12 free hours in a day, but if your energy is fractured, distracted, and drained, those hours create nothing. On the other hand, one deeply energized hour in flow can outperform an entire week of scattered effort. The wealthy don't manage time. They design rhythms of energy. They build their days, weeks, and seasons around cycles of peak creativity, deep flow, recovery, and expansion. Their calendars aren't just schedules. They are wealth engines. Flow as a rhythm, not an accident. For most people, flow feels like a lucky accident. For the 1%, flow is ritualized. They engineer the conditions so that flow appears regularly, like the tide. This happens because they understand something fundamental. Flow is rhythmic. Your brain cycles between focus and rest. Your body cycles between stress and recovery. Your life itself cycles between expansion and consolidation. Wealthy individuals ride these rhythms instead of fighting them. Daily rhythm, the power blocks. At the micro level, wealthy individuals design their days into power blocks. Instead of filling every hour with random activity, they carve out intentional windows for 1. Peak flow work, deep wealth creation, usually 90 to 120 minutes in the morning when the brain is sharp. 2. Strategic thinking, vision, and leverage decisions later in the day when energy dips but creativity is still active. 3. Recovery and reflection, recharge movement, meditation, or walking to reset. 4. Connection and influence, people flow meetings, calls, or networking. This rhythm ensures they don't waste prime flow hours on shallow tasks like emails or admin. Example: Jeff Bezos famously made all major decisions before lunch because he knew his mental sharpness declined later. He honored his rhythm. Weekly rhythm, flow cycles. Zooming out, the wealthy don't treat every day the same. Their weeks have deliberate flow cycles. Creation days, deep work, no meetings. Connection days, networking, team alignment, partnerships. Leverage days, reviewing investments, systems, and opportunities. Rest days, complete disconnection to recover mental bandwidth. This weekly rhythm means they're not blending everything together in chaotic multitasking. Each day has a flow identity. Action: audit your week. Do your days blur together, or do they have distinct rhythms that allow full immersion in flow? Seasonal rhythm, expansion and consolidation. At the macro level, wealthy individuals think in seasons. Expansion seasons, intense growth, launching projects, raising capital, scaling. These require long stretches of flow immersion and high energy. Consolidation seasons, pulling back, refining systems, evaluating results, strengthening foundations. These require reflection and strategy. Most people burn out because they try to live in permanent expansion. Wealthy individuals build cycles. Expansion followed by consolidation, action followed by integration. Elon Musk, for instance, works in aggressive sprints during product launches, but retreats into periods of quiet engineering and strategy afterward. Energy is currency. Here's a radical truth. Wealth is energy management, not time management. Think of energy like a currency with different denominations. Physical energy, health, sleep, movement. Mental energy, focus, clarity, creativity. Emotional energy, motivation, resilience, passion. Spiritual energy, purpose, alignment, meaning. The wealthy protect and replenish each form. They design lives where their energy is constantly compounding, not draining. For example, they invest in personal trainers and chefs not for vanity, but because health fuels physical energy. They meditate or journal not for spirituality, but because mental clarity multiplies flow. They spend on therapy or coaching because emotional energy leaks kill empires. Rituals of the 1%. What do these rhythms look like in practice? 1. Morning rituals for flow entry. Waking without digital noise. Physical movement to activate the body. Meditation or journaling to prime clarity. Intentional focus on the one wealth-creating task. 2. Midday rituals for energy reset. Walking meetings. Power naps or deep breathing. Light meals to avoid energy crashes. 3. Evening rituals for flow integration. Reflection journaling. Gratitude or visualization. Disconnection from digital chaos to protect sleep cycles. These rituals are not about discipline. They are energy orchestration tools. Story: the investor who mastered rhythms. One hedge fund manager used to work nonstop, chasing deals, sleeping 4 hours a night. He made millions but was constantly stressed, reactive, and near collapse. Then he shifted. He began structuring his life around rhythms. Deep flow mornings for market analysis. Afternoons for team strategy. Evenings for reflection and recovery. Weekends entirely off-grid. Not only did his returns improve, but his health stabilized, his decision-making sharpened, and his influence in the industry grew. His breakthrough wasn't more hours. It was rhythmic energy. The wealthy don't cram more into their calendars. They design their calendars around energy rhythms that produce flow. Daily power blocks, weekly cycles, seasonal expansions, and rituals of energy management turn time into a multiplier instead of a drain. In Part 2, we'll dive into the practical toolkit. How to actually craft your personal wealth calendar. Mapping when and where your flow is strongest, aligning it with leverage, and ensuring every cycle compounds toward wealth like the 1%. Why you need a wealth calendar. We've already established that the wealthy don't simply manage time. They design rhythms. But how do you take this abstract idea and turn it into a concrete, living system that guides your days? That's where the wealth calendar comes in. Think of it as a personalized operating system, one that ensures your flow energy is channeled into the highest leverage wealth activities, while protecting your mind and body from burnout. Instead of being reactive to other people's schedules, you're now orchestrating your life like a symphony, where every note contributes to the masterpiece of your financial destiny. Step 1. Map your natural flow cycles. Everyone has unique rhythms. Some people hit peak creativity at dawn, others at night. Some need long immersion. Others thrive on shorter bursts. The wealthy don't copy generic routines. They audit themselves. To map your flow, 1. Track your energy for 2 weeks. Every 2 to 3 hours, note whether you feel high focus, moderate energy, or drained. 2. Identify when you feel most alive and immersed. That's your natural flow window. 3. Align your highest leverage wealth activities, strategy, creation, decision-making with those windows. If you discover that from 8 to 11 a.m. you're unstoppable, then that block becomes sacred for wealth creation. Step 2. Design your daily wealth blocks. Now, carve your day into intentional energy segments. Prime flow block, 90 to 180 minutes, your most important wealth creation activity. Non-negotiable. No distractions. Secondary flow block, 60 to 90 minutes supporting tasks that build leverage, systems, investments, team design. Connection block, 1 to 2 hours meetings, partnerships, networking. Recovery block, varies walks, meditation, workouts, naps, recharging rituals. This design ensures you don't scatter flow across trivial tasks. Your wealth calendar acts like a shield, protecting your most valuable energy from leaks. Step 3. Structure your week like the 1%. Wealthy individuals don't live in monotonous 7-day loops. Their weeks have intentional themes. Here's a blueprint you can adapt. Monday, creation start the week in flow. No meetings, just building and strategizing. Tuesday, leverage focus on investments, systems, automation. Wednesday, connection calls, meetings, partnerships, energy outward. Thursday, vision, long-term strategy, innovation, trend analysis. Friday, reflection and integration, reviewing progress, capturing lessons. Saturday, recovery, nature, family, play, restoring energy. Sunday, preparation, light planning, setting intentions, visualization. Notice the rhythm alternates between output and recovery, deep work and outward connection. This keeps energy cycling, preventing burnout. Step 4. Seasonal wealth cycles. Beyond weeks, the wealthy operate in 90-day seasons. Each quarter has a distinct wealth theme. Quarter 1, expansion, launching projects, taking risks. Quarter 2, optimization, refining systems, improving efficiency. Quarter 3, scaling, doubling down on what works, amplifying reach. Quarter 4, reflection and renewal, reviewing results, consolidating wealth, resting. This cycle means you're never in endless grind mode. You alternate between pushing outward and consolidating inward, just like nature's seasons. Step 5. Protect the calendar with rituals. A wealth calendar is useless if you don't defend it. The wealthy have rules. Mornings are sacred. No one else gets access until their flow work is complete. Boundaries are real. If something doesn't fit the theme of the day, it gets moved. Recovery is non-negotiable. Sleep, exercise, and rest are treated as wealth investments, not luxuries. Review is ritualized. Weekly reflections and quarterly reviews keep the calendar aligned with evolving goals. Think of your calendar as a fortress. Every yes is a gate you open. Wealthy people open very few gates. Story: the calendar that built an empire. A young tech entrepreneur once worked 14 to 16 hours a day, juggling product development, sales calls, investor meetings, and emails. Despite constant motion, progress was slow. Then he built his wealth calendar. Mornings reserved for deep product design flow. Afternoons for team building and customer feedback. Fridays for reviewing numbers and long-term vision. Weekends strictly off-grid. Within a year, not only did his company grow faster, but he felt calmer, more creative, and more decisive. His investors noticed a shift. His team became more autonomous. And wealth began compounding. Not because he worked harder, but because he worked rhythmically. Time management is an outdated paradigm. The wealthy live by energy management through rhythm. Your wealth calendar is the tool. Mapping natural flow cycles. Designing daily blocks of power. Structuring weeks with themes. Honoring 90-day seasons. Protecting energy through rituals. With this, you stop living reactively and start living rhythmically, like the 1%. Flow is no longer accidental. It's scheduled, protected, and multiplied. Wealth is not a solo game. There's a lie many ambitious people secretly believe, that wealth is achieved by individual genius, that if you work hard enough, smart enough, long enough, you'll break through. The truth? No one becomes wealthy alone. Every fortune, every empire, every breakthrough is built on networks, on partnerships, investors, mentors, allies, teams, customers, and communities. The wealthy understand this deeply. They see relationships not as optional, but as the infrastructure of wealth. Flow extends beyond the individual. Up until now, we've explored how to get yourself into flow, how to engineer your own rhythm, focus, and energy. But here's the next level. Flow isn't just personal, it's social. When two or more people enter flow together, a phenomenon occurs: collective intelligence. Ideas spark faster. Solutions appear smoother. Energy multiplies instead of divides. The wealthy cultivate this constantly. They design environments where flow can occur not just for themselves, but for their teams, partners, and entire networks. That's why billionaires often say, I don't hire people to tell them what to do. I hire people smarter than me so we can build something beyond what I can imagine alone. The network effect of wealth. The 1% operate by a simple but powerful principle. Your net worth is tied to your network's flow. Think about it. A single introduction can change your trajectory. A single conversation can save years of trial and error. A single ally can open doors to markets, funding, or opportunities you could never reach alone. Wealthy individuals don't just collect contacts, they cultivate ecosystems. They think like gardeners, planting seeds, watering relationships, pruning distractions, and allowing connections to grow organically into influence. Scarcity thinking versus abundance networking. Here's the difference between the 99% and the 1% in relationships. Scarcity networking. What can I get from this person? How can I extract value? Abundance networking. How can we create value together? How can I elevate this person's flow? The wealthy understand that flow spreads when they help others enter flow. By offering insight, opportunity, or encouragement, they strengthen bonds. Those bonds later multiply wealth through trust and reciprocity. Building a flow-driven network. So, how do you actually build a wealth network like the 1%? 1. Curate the environment. Surround yourself with ambitious, creative, and energized people. Avoid energy vampires who drain focus and scatter flow. Join communities where ideas are exchanged freely and generously. 2. Offer flow first. Instead of asking what I get, ask, how can I help? Wealthy individuals create leverage by giving first. Introductions, resources, insights. This positions them as connectors and amplifiers, not takers. 3. Engage in flow conversations. Normal conversations revolve around gossip and triviality. Wealth conversations revolve around visions, opportunities, solutions. Ask expansive questions. What's exciting you right now? What's the biggest opportunity you see coming? 4. Protect your network. The wealthy are deliberate gatekeepers. They filter who gets their time and access, not out of arrogance, but out of rhythm protection. Every relationship in their circle compounds flow rather than diluting it. The role of mentors and allies. The wealthy accelerate by learning from those ahead of them. They don't stumble blindly. They compress decades into days by absorbing wisdom from mentors. But notice, mentors aren't found through begging or flattery. They're attracted through resonance. When someone sees that you're operating in flow, driven, curious, disciplined, they naturally want to invest in you. Wealthy individuals also invest in allies, peers who push them higher, challenge their thinking, and co-create new possibilities. A single strategic ally can open doors that money alone could never buy. Example, the connector's fortune. There was once a young entrepreneur who couldn't raise capital for his startup. Investors ignored him. His product was good, but he had no access. Instead of giving up, he shifted strategy. He focused entirely on network flow. He started hosting small dinners with ambitious people in his city. He created spaces for others to share ideas. He introduced people to one another without expecting anything back. Within 2 years, he was known as a connector. When his startup needed funding, investors lined up not because his product changed, but because his network trusted him. He didn't build wealth by chasing investors. He built wealth by creating flow for others. The energy of access. Access is one of the greatest multipliers of wealth. Access means you know the right person at the right time. You hear opportunities before the masses. You're invited into rooms where decisions are made. Wealthy individuals don't always know more. They simply hear it first. And access is not luck. It's built through years of cultivating trust, generosity, and alignment in networks. The social flow rituals of the 1%. The wealthy don't leave networking to chance. They ritualize it. Here are common practices. 1. Curated gatherings, private dinners, mastermind groups, retreats. Small, intimate, high-flow environments. 2. Compound introductions. introducing two people who could create value for each other. Each introduction multiplies trust. 3. Strategic presence. Attending key events not for quantity of contacts, but for quality of connections. 4. Follow up with value. After meetings, sending an article, resource, or introduction that helps the other person move forward. This isn't manipulation. It's the orchestration of social flow. Wealth is not built in isolation. The 1% understand that networks are not accessories to success. They are the architecture of success. Flow spreads when multiple people align their energy, and those who master this truth create ecosystems of influence, access, and opportunity. In the next part, we'll explore how to engineer your wealth network step by step. Identifying the 5 circles of influence, building trust capital, and cultivating social flow so powerfully that opportunities chase you instead of the other way around. The architecture of influence. If wealth is built on networks, then your network itself must be designed. Random connections create random results. Intentional connections create intentional wealth. The wealthy build what I call the 5 circles of wealth influence. Think of them like concentric rings radiating outward, each one with a distinct role in your journey to the 1%. Circle 1, the inner flow circle. This is your core tribe, the people who directly shape your mindset, energy, and rhythm. Usually no more than 3 to 5 individuals. They challenge you to level up. They understand your vision without judgment. They protect your focus instead of distracting it. If your inner circle is toxic, no amount of networking can save you. Wealth begins here. Action. Audit your closest 5 people. Do they elevate or drain you? Replace energy vampires with allies of flow. Circle 2, the growth circle. These are mentors, coaches, and advisors who compress time for you. They walk the path ahead of you and share shortcuts, wisdom, and perspective. They prevent costly mistakes. They expand your horizon of what's possible. They often open doors to higher level circles. Wealthy individuals invest heavily here. They pay for access to masterminds, consultants, and networks because they know an insight can multiply into millions. Action. Choose one mentor or guide per wealth domain: finance, business, health, relationships. Flow grows faster with guidance. Circle 3, the collaboration circle. This is your peer group, partners, co-creators, business allies. These are the people you build with, share resources with, and grow alongside. The wealthy don't compete with everyone. They collaborate with equals. This circle is where flow becomes synergistic, where 1 plus 1 is equal to 10. Action. Identify 3 to 5 peers in your industry or adjacent fields. Commit to regular flow exchanges, brainstorming sessions, idea swaps, joint ventures. Circle 4, the influence circle. Here live the connectors, influencers, and amplifiers. They may not be deeply personal, but they have access to large audiences or key decision makers. This circle extends your reach exponentially. A single influencer mentioning your work can create more momentum than years of self-promotion. The wealthy nurture this circle by being useful first. They don't beg for attention. They provide value so naturally that influencers want to highlight them. Action. Make a list of 10 people whose platform or reach could multiply your mission. Study their world. Find authentic ways to contribute. Circle 5, the legacy circle. This is the outermost circle, the broader community that follows, supports, or benefits from your work. Customers, fans, students, audiences. While they may not have direct influence individually, collectively they become the foundation of your wealth. The wealthy don't ignore the circle. They invest in nurturing it through storytelling, generosity, and consistency. They build tribes, not just customer bases. Action. Build rituals that keep your wider audience engaged. Weekly content, newsletters, events. Treat them not as transactions, but as part of your ecosystem. Building trust capital. Access to circles is not bought. It's earned through trust capital. Trust capital is built when people see that 1. You do what you say you'll do. 2. You add more value than you take. 3. You operate in integrity even when unseen. 4. You elevate others into flow. Every interaction either deposits into your trust account or withdraws from it. The wealthy guard this account as carefully as their financial one. Social flow practices. To cultivate networks with flow, listen deeply. Don't rush to speak. Wealthy people feel heard, not pitched. Ask expansive questions. Instead of what do you do, try what are you building that excites you most? Follow up thoughtfully. A simple check in or shared resource keeps the energy alive. Host with intention. Gather small groups around themes of creation, not small talk. Example, the power of the five circles. Imagine an artist. Alone, they create in isolation. But once they apply the five circles, inner flow circle, a few friends who encourage discipline. Growth circle, a mentor who teaches distribution. Collaboration circle, a producer and marketer to co-create projects. Influence circle, a podcaster who promotes their work. Legacy circle, a community of fans who support every release. Within a year, their art reaches the world and wealth follows, not from isolation, but from intentional circles. Wealth is not a solo endeavor. It's an ecosystem. The five circles of wealth influence are your architecture. 1. Inner flow circle. 2. Growth circle. 3. Collaboration circle. 4. Influence circle. 5. Legacy circle. When designed intentionally and nurtured through flow, these circles transform you from an isolated individual into a wealth nucleus, a hub of influence, opportunity, and abundance. The wealthy don't chase networks. They cultivate circles where flow multiplies. That is how they gain influence and access beyond imagination. The final flow frontier. By now, we've explored how to harness flow for focus, wealth creation, influence, and networks. But there's a deeper frontier, the 1% guard most carefully. Legacy. Wealth without legacy is shallow. Success without impact fades. True wealth is measured not only in assets, but in the ripples you create that outlast you. This chapter is about turning wealth into freedom, meaning, and enduring influence. Because here's the truth. Money is the tool, not the treasure. Flow is the fuel, not the finish line. Legacy is where both converge. The wealth plateau. Many who reach financial success experience a strange emptiness. They thought money would solve everything. Yet after the cars, homes, and accolades, a subtle question emerges. Is this it? This is the wealth plateau. The 1% face it, but unlike most, they don't get stuck. They pivot. They realize the purpose of wealth isn't accumulation. It's expansion. Expansion of freedom. Expansion of experiences. Expansion of influence. Expansion of impact. They shift from chasing success to creating significance. Flow expands beyond self. Up to now, flow has been about your personal rhythm and your network. But the highest level of flow is transcendent flow, where your actions ripple far beyond you. A business leader creates jobs that sustain families. An inventor designs technology that changes how millions live. A philanthropist funds education that alters entire communities. This is where wealth becomes legacy, when your flow no longer just fuels your life, but creates momentum for generations. Freedom as the true currency. At the legacy level, the wealthy stop measuring wealth by dollars and start measuring it by freedom. Freedom of time, choosing how and with whom to spend your days. Freedom of location, living where you thrive, not where you're forced. Freedom of impact, channeling resources toward causes that matter. Freedom of creation, building what excites you, not what sustains you. Money is not the end goal. It is a permission slip for freedom. And flow ensures you spend that freedom not in distraction, but in purpose. The 3 levels of legacy flow. There are 3 primary ways the wealthy channel flow into legacy. 1. Personal legacy, identity flow. The character, values, and story you embody. How your children, peers, and successors remember you. This is not about assets. It's about essence. 2. Relational legacy, network flow. The communities, networks, and institutions you build. The influence that continues through those you've elevated. Leaders who lift others create exponential impact. 3. Global legacy, impact flow. Contributions to humanity and the world. Causes supported, innovations launched, systems changed. This is where you step into immortality of influence. The 1% deliberately design all 3. Scarcity versus legacy thinking. Compare the two mindsets. Scarcity thinker. I need enough money so I'm safe. Success thinker. I need wealth so I can prove myself. Legacy thinker. I use wealth to free myself and then free others. Scarcity chains you. Success inflates you. Legacy transcends you. Example, the silent builder. Consider the story of a woman who built a successful chain of businesses. She could have stopped there, retiring into luxury. Instead, she asked, what can this wealth build beyond me? She created scholarships for underserved students. She funded incubators for young entrepreneurs. She built a foundation that supported local artists. Her legacy wasn't just the businesses she owned, but the lives those businesses touched. Today, generations she never met are thriving because she shifted from success to significance. That's the secret of the 1%. They don't just accumulate wealth, they architect legacy. Flow rituals for legacy. How do the wealthy align flow with impact? They practice specific rituals. 1. Vision beyond the self. Weekly reflection on what will outlast me? Asking, if I disappeared tomorrow, what ripple remains? 2. Wealth allocation with intention. A portion of wealth is always directed toward impact. The 1% automate philanthropy the same way others automate bills. 3. Teaching and mentorship. Legacy flows not just in money but in knowledge. The wealthy embed wisdom in successors, protégés, and communities. 4. Storytelling as immortality. Sharing lessons, failures, and philosophies. They know stories travel further and longer than statistics. The flow paradox of giving. Here's the paradox. The wealthy discover that the more they give, the more wealth flows back to them. Why? Because generosity multiplies networks, builds trust capital, and attracts allies who want to support their mission. Impact creates influence, and influence often creates more opportunities than money ever could. The scarcity thinker hoards and stays small. The legacy thinker flows and grows. Legacy is the final frontier of wealth. The 1% understand that success without significance is empty, but wealth aligned with flow becomes eternal. When you move from survival to success to significance, you step into a life where wealth is not just measuring what you hold, but in what you set free. In part 2, we'll go deeper. How to practically structure your legacy, financial vehicles, mentorship systems, storytelling, and daily practices that ensure your wealth continues to ripple even when you're gone. From intention to structure, legacy begins with vision, but it lasts through structure. Many accumulate wealth only to see it scatter within a generation because they lack the blueprint. The 1% know this. If wealth is not designed to outlast you, it won't. They embed flow into their legacy using practical tools that ensure money, values, and influence continue multiplying long after they're gone. Pillar 1. Wealth preservation vehicles. The wealthy don't just make money. They design systems that preserve it. Trusts and foundations. Trusts protect wealth from erosion and mismanagement. Foundations create vehicles for impact, ensuring causes continue receiving resources indefinitely. Investment ecosystems. Instead of scattered assets, they build interconnected ecosystems. Businesses, properties, and funds that feed each other. Flow-based investments focus not only on returns, but on alignment with values. Example, a wealthy entrepreneur creates a trust that funds scholarships. The trust is fed by dividends from a portfolio of businesses. Even after the entrepreneur's passing, the system sustains itself, a self-replenishing stream of legacy. Pillar 2, the flow of knowledge. Money fades if wisdom doesn't accompany it. That's why the wealthy design mentorship pipelines. Family wealth education. Children are taught financial literacy early. They inherit not only assets, but the mindset to steward them. Succession systems. Businesses and organizations are passed down with leadership frameworks. Protégés are groomed years before transitions. Codified wisdom. The wealthy write memoirs, record teachings, or create playbooks. They turn personal lessons into shared assets. Flow ensures wisdom doesn't stay trapped in one lifetime. It cascades. Pillar 3, the multiplication of networks. Your network is one of your greatest legacies. The 1% intentionally connect their successors, ments, and causes into the networks they built. Introductions as legacy. A single introduction can alter someone's trajectory more than $1 million. Wealthy individuals curate access as part of their legacy. Communities that outlast the creator. Think of alumni groups, mastermind circles, or associations. The wealthy build networks that thrive even without their direct presence. When networks are structured as ecosystems, legacy multiplies exponentially. Pillar 4. Storytelling as immortality. Money sustains, but stories inspire. The wealthiest know their personal story is one of the most powerful vehicles of legacy. They capture the journey, the struggles, sacrifices, and values. They craft narratives that align their wealth with meaning. They use storytelling not just for branding, but for immortality. Why? Because stories travel further than money. They survive recessions, governments, even centuries. Example: the story of philanthropists who rose from poverty to fund education lives longer than the scholarship checks themselves. It becomes a beacon for future generations. Pillar 5. Daily flow rituals of legacy. Legacy isn't built in one grand gesture. It's woven daily. The wealthy practice rituals that keep legacy alive. 1. Daily contribution, asking, "Who did I lift today?" 2. Weekly reflection, journaling what ripple they created that week. 3. Monthly stewardship, reviewing wealth allocations for alignment with impact. 4. Yearly vision reset, asking, "Does my legacy vision still excite me, or does it need expansion?" These micro practices keep legacy alive as an active force, not a distant dream. The ripple effect. The beauty of legacy is this: your flow outlives you. Every dollar invested in alignment, every student mentored, every community built, every story shared, all becomes ripples. Some ripples you'll see in your lifetime. Others will echo long after you're gone. That's the true wealth of the 1%. Not just money, but immortality through impact. Closing the book. You began this journey learning how to tap into flow state. Along the way, you discovered how to master focus like the wealthy, how to break scarcity and embrace abundance, how to align energy, strategy, and environment for wealth creation, how to harness flow in networks, influence, and creation, and finally, how to channel wealth into freedom and lasting legacy. The wealthy aren't superhuman. They're not even luckier than most. They are simply aligned, living in flow while directing it toward creation, wealth, and legacy. Now the question shifts from how can I become wealthy to what will I do with my wealth when it flows to me? Because if you stay in flow, wealth is inevitable. And when wealth arrives, the only question is whether you'll just live rich or leave a legacy.